in the last minute or so from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty the King has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours.
That he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming, yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite.
So King Charles just did something absolutely unprecedented. He stripped his own brother of the title prince and kicked him out of his 30-room mansion. And no, this isn't some family squabble over who gets grandma's china. This is the biggest royal exile since Edward VIII abdicated the throne. Prince Andrew, the Queen's favorite son, is now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. No prince, no palace, no way back. And the question everyone's asking is, how did we get here?
The daughters and also their mother as well. So what do they do there? Like a lot of families deciding where do you go and spend Christmas.
But it's quite a thing though, Rupert, isn't it? I mean, you know, they've rejected their mother and their father and they've gone for their uncle.
Let's rewind to 2003. The Queen Mother had just passed away at age 101, and she left behind this absolutely stunning property called Royal Lodge. We're talking about a 30-room Georgian mansion in Windsor Great Park with 98 acres of land, a swimming pool, an aviary, 6 cottages, and even a miniature thatched playhouse that was gifted to young Princess Elizabeth by the people of Wales. This wasn't just any house. This was history.
Is preparing to leave Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion near Windsor Castle, where he's lived virtually rent-free for more than 2 decades. He's moving to a more remote, private house on the Sandringham estate, funded by his brother, King Charles.
Prince Andrew approached the Crown Estate with an offer. He'd take over the lease and spend his own money renovating the place. The deal? He paid £1 million up front, promised to spend £7.5 million on refurbishments, and got a 75-year lease that wouldn't expire until 2078. And here's the kicker, his rent was listed as 1 peppercorn per year, if demanded. That's not a typo. A literal peppercorn, because he'd already paid for the renovations. He effectively lived there rent-free for over 2 decades.
I mean, certainly the person I talked to who knows him well says that he's not upset by the way his reputation has been trashed. He's just disappointed no longer to be on the balcony at Buckingham Palace. That's the thing that gave him his whole purpose in life. He's a man who's been searching for identity all his life. The royal family gave him some sort of status.
At the time, Andrew was still a working royal. He was known as the Duke of York. He did official engagements, and nobody questioned why the Queen's son got to live in a mansion for practically nothing. Fast forward to today, and that same deal is now the center of one of the most explosive royal battles in modern history. Everything changed in November 2019. Andrew sat down with BBC Newsnight's Emily Maitlis for what would become the most disastrous interview in royal history. He was trying to explain his friendship with a controversial financier, but instead of clearing his name, he made things infinitely worse. The interview was supposed to help. Andrew's team thought if he just told his side of the story, people would understand. But from the very first question, it was clear this was not going to go well. When asked about serious allegations, Andrew claimed he had no recollection of ever meeting his accuser. He said he couldn't have been at a London nightclub on a specific night in March 2001 because he was at a Pizza Express in Woking with his daughter Beatrice. Now, Pizza Express in Woking wouldn't normally be newsworthy, but Andrew's explanation for why he remembered this random Tuesday night 20 years ago was bizarre. He said, quote, "Going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. The internet had a field day."
No, that couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking.
Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been through Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. As soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that.
But it got worse, much worse, when asked about claims that he'd been profusely sweating during an encounter. Andrew offered one of the most bizarre medical excuses ever heard on television. He said, quote, "There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat or I didn't sweat at the time." He claimed that he'd suffered an overdose of adrenaline during the Falklands War when he was shot at, and that it made him unable to sweat. Doctors later told The Times that an adrenaline overdose typically causes excessive sweating in humans, not the opposite. The interview was a catastrophe. Headlines around the world called it a car crash and nuclear explosion level bad. Andrew tried to sound honorable, saying his decision to stay at his friend's mansion in 2010 was the honorable and right thing to do, even though the man had been convicted just 2 years earlier. When interviewer Emily Maitlis pointed out the obvious problem with that, Andrew said it was a convenient place to stay and admitted his judgment was probably colored by my tendency to be too honorable.
Of ever meeting this lady.
And deny accusations a teenage girl was forced to have sex with the British royal. In an exclusive BBC interview, the prince said he doesn't regret his friendship with the disgraced billionaire.
Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right.
But he does regret staying at Epstein's Manhattan home after he was found guilty of prostitution charges a decade ago in Florida.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay. My judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable.
Within days, Andrew announced he was stepping back from royal duties, but he still kept his titles. He still kept Royal Lodge, and for years, he thought he could just wait it out.
New fallout overseas just days after Prince Andrew announced he'll stop using his royal titles.
Now he faces new allegations and investigations related to Jeffrey Epstein and Virginia Giuffre.
It all comes just one day before Giuffre's memoir detailing her time with Andrew is set to be released. Here's ABC's Ian Pannell.
Prince Andrew further embroiled in scandal this morning, with detectives looking into claims he asked his police protection officer to investigate Virginia Giuffre. The Mail on Sunday publishing emails they say are from Andrew to an aide of the late Queen Elizabeth. "I have given her date of birth and social security number for investigation."
Then came 2021. A lawsuit was filed against Andrew in New York. He fought it for months, claiming various legal technicalities. But in February 2022, he settled the case for an undisclosed sum reported to be in the millions. He didn't admit guilt, but the damage was done. Queen Elizabeth stripped him of his military titles and royal patronages. He could no longer use His Royal Highness in any official capacity. But Queen Elizabeth was still alive, and she protected her favorite son. She reportedly paid for his private security at Royal Lodge, which cost around £3 million a year. She left him money in her will specifically so he could stay at the mansion, as long as she was alive. Andrew had a shield. Everything changed on September 8, 2022, when Queen Elizabeth died. King Charles became king, and suddenly Andrew's protector was gone. Charles had a very different view of the monarchy. He wanted a slimmed-down royal family, focused on working members only. And Andrew? Andrew was definitely not a working royal anymore. The first thing Charles did was cut off funding for Andrew's private security. Without that, Royal Lodge became impossible to defend. The mansion sits outside the secure police perimeter that protects Windsor Castle, meaning Andrew needed his own team of guards. At £3 million a year, Charles wasn't paying it anymore. Then Charles suggested Andrew move to Frogmore Cottage, the much smaller 5-bedroom house that Prince Harry and Meghan had vacated. Andrew refused. He had a 75-year lease. He'd paid for the renovations. Legally, he could stay until 2078. So began the Royal Lodge standoff. Charles stopped paying for security. He stopped funding Andrew's lifestyle. Sources said the king wanted his brother in a smaller, more secure property within the Windsor police ring. Andrew dug in his heels. 4 months. It looked like Andrew had one. He found funding from somewhere to keep the house maintained and pay for security, though nobody knows where that money came from. Sources then revealed that Andrew was unlikely to get any compensation for leaving early. They'd assessed the property and found it in such bad repair that the cost of fixing it would cancel out any money owed to him. The lease required Andrew to maintain the building, and he clearly hadn't kept up with it. And here's the final insult. Andrew was banned from Christmas at Sandringham this year, for the first time ever. He won't be appearing with the royal family at the traditional Christmas Day church service. He'll spend Christmas at Royal Lodge with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, who also lost her Duchess title over her own connection to the same scandal. So why did Charles really kick Andrew out? It wasn't just the mansion. It was about the future of the monarchy. Charles is trying to rebuild public trust in the royal family. He's trying to show that being royal means something, that it comes with responsibility. And Andrew? Andrew represents everything wrong with the old system. Privilege without accountability, wealth without work, titles without duty. The lease that seemed like such a great deal in 2003 is now Andrew's prison. He can't benefit from selling it. He can't pass it to anyone except his widow or daughters. And now, he can't even stay there. The 75-year lease is now under threat, and Andrew will move to a smaller property on the Sandringham estate, funded privately by Charles, but completely out of the public eye. The Queen's favorite son, once known as Randy Andy and the Playboy Prince, is now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. No HRH, no Duke of York, no Prince, and definitely no more 30-room mansion. King Charles made a choice. He chose the monarchy's future over his brother's past. And that, more than any interview or lawsuit or scandal, is the real reason Andrew got kicked out of the palace. So what do you think? Did Charles make the right call? Or is this too harsh for a member of the royal family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more royal drama and the real stories behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, with this family, there's always more chaos coming. I'll see you in the next one.